I would love doing this work. I would love running this business if it weren't for all the people, right? The employees and the customers and the vendors. How many times have you thought that or maybe said that out loud if it weren't for all these people? Well, the reality is that no matter what business you're in, you are in the people business. And if you can learn to win with people, you can win even more in business. Today in this episode, we're going to talk about why every business really is a people business and why people skills are so critical to taking your business to the next level. Welcome to the Shift Podcast. I'm Matt Ware with my friend and co-host Evan Weiland, and we're really excited to talk about this topic today.
Yeah, and whether you think of yourself as a people person or not, Matt, we've put a lot of thought into this one, right? And I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, I think it's so important for every business owner, every entrepreneur to understand that we really are in the people business. When I was 17 or 18 years old, there was a gentleman named Peter Daniels who came to my church. And he wasn't a minister, but he was a person of faith, and he was a very wealthy business owner from Australia. And he was primarily in real estate development as well as some gold and silver mining. And I remember him telling the story that when he was training his sons to come up in the business, because they, of course, were going to run it for him at some point, that he challenged one of them, asked him, he said, son, what business do you think we're in? And his son said accurately, well, we're in the real estate business and the mining business and all of that.
Yeah.
And he just kind of, smirked and said, no, we're in the people business. And he went on to explain how it's so important for entrepreneurs to understand that really it doesn't matter what your industry is. It doesn't matter what your business type is. It doesn't matter what your role is in the business. You are in the people business. Maybe we would say to ourselves, well, I'm not a people person. And you can get away with that maybe if you want to live off grid, like you want to be just completely, away from society, you can get away from that. But the truth is, if you're going to be successful in anything in life, I think you're going to have people skills. And particularly in business, this is a skill that is absolutely invaluable. And one that I think sometimes small business owners, entrepreneurs, especially if they're, maybe in those early stages, that they kind of overlook because they think, well, as long as I'm making money, I'm okay. I don't have to develop these other skills.
Right.
And they don't always realize that could be holding them back from the business getting to the level that they really want it to go to. I think we've got to have a fundamental understanding of the marketplace, right? Like we talk about the market all the time, and we have to understand the market is not really this like concept. It's not a theory. It's not this existential thing. The market is actually people.
That's right.
People do business with people. The market is made up of people. And so the exchange of money for goods and services behind every one of those transactions, it's really people to people. And this is why every business ultimately is a people business.
I love what you said about the market being made up of people. But I think it's also really easy for us entrepreneurs to lose sight of that.
Yeah.
And no longer prioritize, I would say, our responsibility toward people.
Yeah. Well, and here's the hard truth. I think that people skills might be more important than any other skill in the business world. It's more important than having the right product. It's more important than having the right service. It's more important than any of those things because if you can win over people, you can win in business.
Nice.
And not too long ago, actually, I was representing a client in a real estate transaction. And, long story short, we came in with an offer on a property that we were trying to acquire for this client, and we were not the best offer. And so they ended up going, with another offer. But I had forged a really good relationship with the rep on the other side, with that agent. And, we had good rapport and good communication and all of that. And so when he told me they were going with this other offer, I just said, well, hey, when it falls through, not if. I pre-framed it, like when this thing doesn't work out, call me, right? And so sure enough, it didn't go through. And so we, kind of re-engaged and went back to the table again. And we ended up getting the property and being able to close the deal when there were other offers that were for more money they actually walked away from some cash because not only were our terms favorable, but because I had built the relationship with this agent. And so he wanted to work with me. He wanted to do a deal with me. It's not just that he wanted to do a deal. Everybody wants to do a deal. He wanted to do a deal with me.
Awesome.
And I think this is a critical thing to understand, that when people like you, they want to do business with you. When people like you, they want it to be a win-win. People, I think, 99% of people, they want to create win-win scenarios in the marketplace. And so when you establish that rapport, when you have those people skills, man, you can just get so much further in business.
Yeah. So I believe, Matt, that when it comes to being a people person or having these interpersonal skills, there are really two camps. The first camp is internal facing, meaning dealing with your employees as a leader.
Right. And inside the company.
Yeah, exactly. And then the second camp is external facing, meaning dealing with the customers and vendors and the marketplace.
Right.
So being a people person, internal facing, let's talk about it. I think that as leaders, we absolutely must develop this skill of being a people person, as well as take on the responsibility of helping our employees develop in this same area.
Right.
Let me give you an example of this, Matt. So in my business, I was talking to my employee and we were discussing a customer that was kind of giving us a hard time, right?
Sure.
Making it kind of hard to check things off, and they're being a little bit nitpicky about things. And my employee said something that really got my attention. She said, Evan, I wish that I could just do the job and not have to deal with people.
Right. Well, that's what I said earlier when we started the episode, right? I would love the job if it weren't for all the people, but it sounds like she probably is not understanding, because I assume you're talking about your car detailing business, right? So in that context, she has to understand, I'm not in the car detailing business, I'm in the people business.
That's
right.
Yep.
The car detailing is just the vehicle, no pun intended, for how we're serving people.
That's right. Yeah. So it's interesting that she had said that, because it reminded me of when I had first interviewed her for this job.
Okay.
And she said to me, I want to work for a company that's going to help develop my skills.
Right.
She didn't have this in mind.
Right. Yeah. She wanted to focus on the car detailing skills.
She wanted to focus on her technical skills of detailing, which we're working on that too.
Sure.
But what's interesting to me about that is that if I were to invest my time into developing that skill in her, and she was willing to develop that skill, I think that this people skill would take her so much further in her career than any technical skill that she had in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think, like you said earlier, this is the leader's job, right? This is the leader's responsibility to say, not only am I going to develop my people skills, I'm going to help my people develop their people skills. But that assumes that the leader has those skills and wants to learn and grow, and that they want to develop that in other people too.
But when conversations like this happen between employer-employee, man, can we just stop saying that people skills are a soft skill?
Yeah.
Like the example I gave, her developing her interpersonal, her people skills would exponentially, would she just skyrocket her career? She would have the ability to communicate to people. And so I really think that it just needs to belong in the hard skill area.
Right.
It's kind of tough to measure.
Yeah, it is. And it's funny you bring that up, because just a couple of days ago, I heard Simon Sinek talking about this, about people skills specifically. And he said, we really ought not consider them hard skills or soft skills. We ought to just consider them human skills. Right? This is just what it takes to be a skilled human being. And I think that's a good perspective. But of course, we consider them soft skills traditionally because they're hard to measure. Right? They're not really tangible.
That's right.
A lot of times, I think people skills, it really comes down to, it's a feel, right? It's a feel more than an objective outcome. And so, the famous Maya Angelou quote, at the end of the day, people won't remember what you said, and they won't remember what you did. They will remember how you made them feel. And I think a leader just has to understand, this is my responsibility. How I'm making the people around me feel on my team is a huge thing, right? This is an important thing. And I'm not saying that we can take on the responsibility of other people's emotions. That's not what I'm saying. But we have to understand the impact that we have on the people around us. Especially, we're talking about right now the internal side of it. This is with our team. This is with our employees. This is with the people who are in the trenches with us to make our businesses successful. And so the way that we impact them, the way we make them feel matters. I love this statement. I don't know who said it originally, but they talked about, just high impact leadership and contrasting the traditional boss versus the effective leader. And they said it this way. They said that bosses make you feel like they are important, but leaders make you feel like you are important.
Yeah.
And there's such a huge difference there, right? This is all about the impact we're having and how we're making people feel.
Yeah. This is just my opinion, but a leader that doesn't educate themselves on people skills is sort of like a person that's trying to drive a car but unwilling to educate themselves on the rules of the road. It's
Right.
really destructive.
Right.
In nature, it's really destructive.
Right.
And I think we've all had that boss that has built a business, but then treats his employees like they're dispensable.
Yeah.
Right. It's
or
like,
maybe in our worst moments, we've been that boss.
right. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think, unfortunately, the corporate world is just littered with leaders
Yeah.
like this, right? That treat people like they're dispensable, and that the objective is the most important thing, and they just have no idea how to communicate.
Yeah.
And again, this is just an opinion, not stepping on anybody's toes here, but when a leader says, "I'm not good at small talk," or "I don't care for small talk," I think what they might really be saying is, I don't care to put in the work and learn interpersonal skills
Yeah.
and be able to communicate effectively to people so that I can show empathy to the people that I'm leading.
Yeah. Well, and empathy is such a huge thing,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I think that we live in a day and age where leaders have to lead with empathy. We have to be servant leaders. We have to lead with other people in mind.
Yep.
And so this is a huge part of the people skills conversation for leadership. Back to the personality and temperament thing, I think we have to acknowledge that people are wired differently. Every one of us, have a unique personality. We have a unique temperament. And the truth is, some people are more naturally people, and some people are more naturally task people.
Yeah.
And that's not good or bad. It's not right or wrong. It's how we are. It's how we're made. It's how we're wired. But I kind of have a, maybe a controversial position on this. Hot take is, I think that authenticity is overrated sometimes. I know we live in an age where everybody's screaming for authenticity, but when it comes to leadership, sometimes authenticity is overrated because you are going to have to do things to succeed in business that don't come authentically to you. It's not natural for you. It's not authentic to be this way. And I'm not talking about values. I'm talking about preferences. I'm talking about leaning into things that maybe you're not naturally good at or naturally strong in. I might not authentically be disciplined or authentically organized or authentically, whatever, but I'm going to have to be those things. I'm going to have to lean into those things if I'm going to be successful in business. And so in the same way, you might not authentically be a people person, but it's necessary if you're going to win in business and if you're going to win in life. And so stop hiding behind this excuse of like, well, that's just who I am. This is just, that's my personality type. Well, this is what my DISC or my Enneagram or my Myers-Briggs said or whatever. The truth is you may have to change who you are to get where you want to go in life. And again, I'm not talking about compromising values or those kinds of things. I'm talking about what it takes to win with people and what it takes to win in business. And I would just say it this way. You can be authentic and stay stuck.
Yeah.
Or you can be willing to stretch yourself and you can grow to the next level.
That's right. And that's a perfect segue to talk about our second point, which is the external facing, that second camp of people.
Right.
And, I might be stepping on toes, but I might be going for a lot more than that, right? So I think that it's people before profits. It really is people before profits. And I didn't say people or profits. I said people before profits.
Yeah.
And that goes back to the leader that really thinks that people are dispensable.
Yeah.
That just really gets under my skin. So I'm definitely stepping on the toes of that guy or
Right.
that gal, right?
Sure.
But, the moment that a customer feels that you're putting profits before them, that's going to be the first and last time that you make a buck from that person.
Yeah.
That's how important it is to show empathy and communicate effectively to the marketplace.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting that you say that because I think this is starting to become something that is more widely accepted as a good business practice. You know, I think traditionally,
Interesting.
you know, you sort of have the for-profit world and the nonprofit world, and nonprofit maybe being faith-based, but maybe not even. And it was sort of distinguished that way. Like the for-profit companies, they are about profits over people, and nonprofits are about, you know, people over profit. Right. And it was almost like this black and white, you know, delineation. And I think they're starting to become a more conscious awareness of this in the business world that I think is really healthy. I've even heard Simon Sinek talk about this, and you know, he's not a nonprofit guy, he's not a faith-based guy, but he was talking about, you know, from his perspective, you know, the order of priority for a business is purpose, people, profits.
Nice.
Right? Like you have to start with like, what's the purpose for this business in the first place? And ultimately that purpose should be contributing positively to society in some way. Well, now you're going to assemble a team of people. You're going to be people-centric because you want people who are bought into that mission and that purpose, who are going to live that out and are going to deliver that on the customer side. And then profits are going to naturally flow from that. But if you get that in the wrong order, you're going to have all kinds of problems and things will come out sideways. And so, you know, I think one of the ways that we can sort of see this kind of played out in the traditional corporate America model is the idea of the customer service department, right? You know, and that's very like, I want to say old school, but it's still very much alive and well, you know, in terms of the way that a lot of big companies operate. And I would just say that I think the concept of a customer service department is probably one of the biggest toxins to the business world that exists today. Because what it basically says is it gives everybody in the company the idea that you can outsource taking care of people to this other team, this other department. Like, well, we don't have to do that. We're in sales, we're in marketing, we're in you know, we're in all these other places. We don't have to deal with the people, right? And I think it's a gross misunderstanding of what the business exists for, which is ultimately for people, and it robs, it strips the soul of that company from this very thing we're talking about, which is that every business is a people business. But that has to be a mindset and a culture that really flows from top to bottom in the organization.
Well, I think we can see this as an example with Zappos, for example, right? We know that this is a company that was built on customer service.
Right.
And the late CEO, Tony Hsieh, he says that customer service shouldn't just be a department, it should be the entire company.
There you go.
And of course, if you do the research, you find that Zappos sold to Amazon for like 1.2 billion back in 2009.
Right. Crazy. So what that tells you is a couple things. One, Zappos really wasn't a shoe company. They weren't in the shoe business. They were in the people business. They understood that. But it also tells you that you can be in the people business and still be extremely profitable, right? I think that's the lie that a lot of business owners believe, is that if I take care of people, it's going to cut into my profits. I think the opposite is true. I think that if we take really good care of people, if we are people-centric leaders, it's actually going to make our companies more profitable.
And Daniel Lappin, the author of Business Secrets from the Bible, he said it like this: the primary purpose of a business is to enhance the lives of your customers.
So good.
I really do think this is like the kingpin of interacting with your customers.
So good.
You're not in business to sell a product.
Right.
You're in business for people, and you happen to do that by selling a product.
Yeah, right. Well, and it's the idea that as a leader, I'm not in it for myself, I'm in it for the people. As a business owner, I'm not in it for the profit, I'm in it to serve people, which will produce profit. It will take care of, everything else will get taken care of. It's the idea of really servant leadership. And this, again, you know, it's not just something that is in the nonprofit or the faith-based world. I think it's becoming more and more, I want to say trendy, but not in a negative way. Like I think it's becoming, we're gaining more awareness of this as a society, that there really is a value in leading in a very principled and people first way.
You know, I just wish we had more examples in the marketplace of businesses that led people first. You know, it'd be nice if we didn't have to keep referring back to Tom Shoes over and over. Although
it's a great example.
It's a great example. If you don't know, with Tom Shoes, it's the one-for-one model. Basically, the founder, Tom, he went to South America on a trip. come to find out that there's a disease that kids are contracting through the soles of their feet.
Right.
And he was like, why don't we just find a way to solve this? And so he started TOMS shoes, and you buy one and you give one.
Right.
And so every pair that you purchase, a pair goes to a kid to prevent him from getting diseases. And he was able to change the way that people look at disease in South America.
Right.
And so just by putting people first. Right. And so again, I just wish we had more examples like this in today's marketplace. It'd be nice if we could look down Main Street, wherever you're at, and just see examples of this.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think too, we should recognize that there are really big companies that do what they can when they can, to serve people. I think, one recent example just in the last few weeks, we had all the California wildfires. And so, you see Elon Musk and Starlink sending, thousands of Starlink units to those areas because they didn't have electricity or cell service or whatever. And so that people could stay in touch with friends and family. And it's easy for the cynics to say, of course he can do it. He's he's worth $400 billion or whatever. He's just doing it, virtue signaling. He's just trying to, get good press or whatever. And I don't know what his internal motivations are. What I know is that even as a for-profit business that is very profitable, they're trying to do what they can to take care of people.
That's right.
And I think we ought to celebrate that everywhere we can, and we ought to make that more the norm. Like you said, enhancing the lives of customers, enhancing the lives of people. That's what business really is about. And no matter what your product or service is, you have the opportunity to do that, whether in big or small ways. And maybe it's not even in what you sell, it's just in how you make people feel. Because again, people skills, it's so much about a feeling and intangible. So I'm reminded of a story that one of my leadership mentors told, Dr. Mark Rutland, when he years ago went to interview Tony Dungy, who was the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts at the time. They were the reigning Super Bowl champions, and he was going to interview him for a publication. And he tells the story. He said, it was so interesting. I drove onto the campus of the headquarters, and when I got to the security gate, the security guard came out and he introduced himself. He said, my name's John. Welcome to the headquarters of the world champion Indianapolis Colts. How can I make your day better?
I like that.
And kind of took him a little bit off guard. Like, that's a weird way for a security guard to greet you. But maybe he's just a really chipper guy, whatever, right? So he pulls into the parking lot, and the parking lot attendant comes up. Hi, my name's Bill. Welcome to the headquarters of the Indianapolis, Colts. We're the world champions. How can I make your day better? So he's starting to pick up on a trend. The receptionist, when he gets inside, welcome to the world champion Indianapolis Colts headquarters. My name's Amy. How can I make your day better? And he said by the time he got to Tony Dungy's office, he had interacted with 4, 5, 6 people who all greeted him the same way. And he just talks about the impression that it made on him. He's like, I wasn't particularly an Indianapolis Colts fan. I was just there to do an interview. But there was this sense in the culture of their organization that they were about the people. And honestly, that kind of flies in the face of what you think for a professional sports franchise, right? Reigning Super Bowl champs, it's all about me, right? I want the attention, I want the cameras, I want the parade, I want the trophy, I want the ring. That's a world that's a very egocentric world. And yet the culture of the Colts at the time had turned it on its head and made it very customer-centered, people-centered. I think on some level they realized we're not in the football business, we're in the people business. And so Dr. Rutland said he essentially walked away being a Colts fan for life. Not so much because of the Colts, but because of the way they made him feel. And it just goes back to this idea that when you're in the people business, so much of your people skill really is how you make people feel.
Yeah, it really is. Man, what a fun example. So as we wrap up here, Matt, what are a few ways that our audience can improve or work on their people skills this week?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's always things we can be working on. Not an exhaustive list by any means, but a few things that I jotted down as we were preparing for this episode. Number one, I think, is making the decision that I'm going to be a person who adds value to the people around me.
And it is a decision.
It is a decision, right? And I think it starts with saying, I think other people are valuable, like they're inherently, innately valuable.
Right.
And I want to do what I can to add value to their lives, to make them better, right? And I think every interaction that we have with people can make people, they can walk away feeling better or worse, right? And so how can I just add value to them? How can I make your day better, right? Like that's what that question really was about. I think the second thing is making the decision, and again, a decision to lean into positivity rather than negativity.
Yeah.
And I get it, right? Like everybody, again, personality, temperament, we're wired differently. Some people are naturally Tiggers and some are naturally Eeyores, right? Some people, they see the glass half full, they see the glass half empty. I get all of that, but it's still a choice that you can make about whether you're going to be a positive or negative person.
Right.
And when you're a leader, you've got to just understand that that decision has ripple effects everywhere around you because it's contagious. Positivity is contagious, negativity is contagious. And so choosing to be positive makes a huge difference. I like the way that Maxwell describes this. You know, he says that you know, use this as a visual, that anytime you interact with people, they have stepped onto your elevator, metaphorically, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is my elevator. You've stepped into my elevator, and I get to choose, am I pressing up or down?
Yep.
And just making the decision, like, my elevator is always going up.
Nice.
You know, you step onto my elevator, we're going up.
Yep.
And we're going to go up together.
I want to go up.
Yeah, absolutely. The third thing, I think, is to just make the decision to be an encourager. Man, everybody needs encouragement. And when you're a leader, you're a person of influence, whether that's small or great, which means you have the ability to be an encourager. And when you're a leader, your words have more weight than other people's words do, which means what seems like a small criticism to you can weigh really heavy on the people around you.
Right.
And what seems like a small encouragement can really make somebody's day.
Yep.
And you know, maybe it's a little bit, you know, corny or whatever, but CEO, right? Chief Encouragement Officer. Like, just see yourself that way, because everybody needs encouragement. And guess what? Everybody loves an encourager.
Right.
Like, when you are an encourager, people naturally like you. I want to be around people who encourage me.
Yep.
I'm drawn to them. I gravitate toward them. So being an encourager. And the last thing I think is just communication skills in general, right? Whether it's, you know, in person, face to face, it's, you know, on Zoom, it's in a text message or an email, or, you know, like whatever it is, written, verbal, what have you, just realizing that every interaction makes an impression on people, and just being aware of your communication, because it really is an expression of your people skill.
Well, we hope this episode was helpful. More than that, we hope that it's encouraged you to go out and develop your people skills today. After all, that's really what it's all about.
Yeah.
So we've left a few resources for you in the description or in the show notes. A couple books. Number one, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. This is it's a classic. You've got to read it. If it's not on your shelf, put it on your shelf.
Sort of the foundation for all of this stuff.
No, it really is. Yeah. The second one is Winning with People by John Maxwell. Also classic.
book.
I don't have this one, so I'm going to check it out.
Yep.
And then the third one, of course, is Business Secrets from the Bible by Rabbi Daniel Lapin.
Yeah.
That's audio
Great
I've been
book.
listening to, so I don't have a physical copy. But again, hope you found this helpful. Go out, get those books. Links in the description. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and then we hope to see you guys next week.